Hi everyone, this is Julie from Totally Holistic Health and welcome to my Yin Yoga for runners. I've started running recently myself. I used to run a lot when I was younger, but obviously having children and stuff, and it sort of tend to go a little bit by the wayside. So since we've had sort of lockdown, I've started running again, and obviously because I'm quite a bit older now than I have been before, it's sort of, there is a lot of strain on sort of like the muscles and the joints and stuff. And the thing I found that helped me most was doing Yin Yoga. I'm actually a yoga teacher doing Hatha Yoga as well as Yin. But Yin in particular is very, very good for really helping to loosen up muscles and tight joints and things like that. Whereas normal yoga, you're really working with the strength that you have as a runner. And sometimes you don't actually have that flexibility. Yin Yoga actually allows you to work with that flexibility and build it up a little bit. It's a very passive type of yoga. And normally we hold the poses for about 3 to 5 minutes, which does sound a long time, but what we do is need to have that tension on the body for that amount of time to allow ourselves just to sink into each pose. And it's a very passive type of yoga. We're not sort of forcing ourselves to sort of push ourselves, not like normal yoga where you're really using the strength and you're trying to hold yourself in a particular position. We have lots of blankets and cushions and stuff that we have to help us into a particular position, but we're trying to use gravity, we're trying to use the breath just to allow everything to really sort of elongate. It's also better to do Yin when you're actually cold, so it's a really good thing to do before you start a run rather than the thing that you do afterwards, because it just when you walk, when the muscles are warm, you'll end up, it'll be slightly different, it will feel different, and you're probably more likely to pull something if you do Yin Yoga when you're warm. So doing it cold before you go out for a run, or maybe on the days you don't go for a run, you'll probably really notice a difference in terms of your flexibility. So the main thing is we're holding the poses for about 3 to 5 minutes. So what we're trying to do is put a little bit of extra strain on the body, and it's actually that stress that you put on the body that allows it to release. So in terms of out of 10, if you're looking at 0 being no pain and 10 being excruciating, you're probably looking around about 5. But we don't want any pain, we just want to know that we're actually doing some work. So it should feel sort of not just discomfort as such, but you should feel it in the muscles and the joints, and that's what we're looking for really. A really good indicator on if you're going a little bit too far, apart from the fact that you're in pain, is if you find that your breath is become a little bit shorter or a little bit stilted, it probably means that you're overdoing it a little bit. So we're just trying to allow the breath to sort of flow freely. So we're going to start off, as I said, if you've got some blankets and cushions, it's really useful because it's quite good to prop yourselves up into those areas that need a little bit of stability. I'm going to use a little one underneath my bottom to start off with. And we're going to come into a pose called butterfly. The poses in Yin are very different from, or different names in Hatha Yoga. So in Hatha Yoga, this is called a cobbler's pose. So we're going to bring the bottom onto a cushion, which is nice to just gives you a little bit of extra height. And we're going to bring the soles of our feet together. So obviously depending on how tight and how inflexible you are, you might find that your feet come away from you a little bit further. If you find your hips are okay, you might find just bringing your feet as close to your bottom is adequate. But again, if you find that you're struggling with this sort of, you need a bit of support underneath your thighs, just get a couple of cushions or something to pop them underneath your thighs. So we're just going to allow ourselves to sink forward. So because it's a very passive pose, it's useful to bring your palms to face up. And what this does, it just allows you to sink into it rather than forcing yourself into it. So we're just going to curve the spine over. Again, make sure that you're nice and reasonably comfortable. And we're just going to use the breath, allow the head to become heavy. And then we're going to just stay here for about 3 minutes. It's actually quite useful to set a timer on your watch if you have one, just so that you can feel it buzzing or somewhere nearby. This is a really good pose to release the groin area, inside the thighs, the hips, and also the lower back. Because it's a forward fold, it's incredibly relaxing on your nervous system as well. Just keep focusing on your breath, just noticing if you're holding any tension anywhere. I tend to find with this one, I always tend to clench my jaw for some reason. So if you do find that you're clenching anywhere, just, if it's the jaw, just open the mouth a little bit. Sometimes find my feet tense up really randomly in this one as well, so just check your toes and your feet. Very carefully now, because we've been into this pose for a while, we just need to very carefully move ourselves out of this. So just slowly walking your hands back. And it's quite nice just to bring your hands behind you. Just maybe bring your feet flat on the floor. Just move your knees from side to side just to windscreen wiper your legs. And the main thing with the yoga practice really is just trying to listen to your own body as well, because as I said, apart from everyone has a different body geometry, some people have been doing yoga, some people have not done yoga before, so you might find that you're really, really tight in certain areas. So the main thing is don't force yourself into a particular position, because you are going to hurt yourself. And I'm a yoga teacher. I've been doing yoga since I was 15, so then again, I'm not as flexible as a lot of people, so it's not about flexibility, it's about learning what your body can actually do. So the next pose we're going to do is called a half fire log. So this is quite strong on your knees, and also the backs of your knees and also your thighs. So if you have issues with your knees, what I would suggest is, if you've got a blanket, in fact I use this one under my bottom, use a blanket rolled up underneath that straight leg, because don't hyperextend it, because that really hurts. I've done it, trust me, it's not nice. So with this nice straight leg, we're going to bring your other foot and place it on top of that thigh. So it's sort of crossed over. So you might find that this knee is way up into your chest, which is fine. If you do find that's really not going to go down, you can just bring that foot onto the floor on the other side of your leg. But if you're feeling okay, just popping it onto the thigh. We're going to do a forward fold now over this leg. So again, this is quite an intense stretch. So again, just be really mindful of how this feels, and you will find this can be different on one side than the other. So if you can only find you can come down this far, that's fine. But again, we're not forcing it, we're just allowing the breath to release. And if you're finding that weight of that ankle on top of that thigh is a little bit uncomfortable as well, you can pop maybe a blanket over there just to support that a little bit. So use that breath. And again, this is quite a strong stretch onto the outside of that thigh. If you do find you sort of slouching a little bit more than you're not sort of sitting into it particularly well, you might want to try putting maybe a cushion or a blanket underneath your bottom. And again, that might help you come forward a little bit easier. The main thing is just have a bit of a play around with it, see what feels right for you. If this does feel really impossible for you, you can bring this top foot onto the inside of your left thigh. So it's a little bit like a half butterfly. That might feel a little bit easier. Again, just think passive. We just use the breath, use the gravity. And it's quite nice just to maybe just actually give yourself that permission to release, because sometimes we hold a lot of tension in our bodies that maybe aren't intentional, but we sort of force it on ourselves. So when you actually do have that time to release, it's nice just to go for it. Very gently again coming out of this. Don't rush out of any of these poses. We're in there for quite a while, so just take a while to release out of it. And again, just bring that foot off there. And if you do need to just release the ankles, that's absolutely fine. Just feel free to do so. And now we're going to do the second side. So if you do need to pop a little bit of support underneath that straight leg, that's fine. So the other option is if you just bring your foot into the thigh, that's another option. Again, you might find you come forward a little bit easier, but it's not working quite so much into the glute. So pop in the other foot on there, and again, just to getting yourself nice and comfortable, moving the pelvis back and just allowing you to come forward. And again, this side definitely isn't as flexible as the other side, which is fine. And again, very slowly coming out of this. So slowly taking that foot off your thigh. And again, it's quite nice just to move your legs a little bit just to get that circulation in your hips. Brilliant. So we're going to come into a gentle pigeon pose or swan pose, as it's called in Yin Yoga. So if you have issues with your knees, again, or it's quite nice just to bring a blanket underneath you. Again, a bit of support is quite nice. So I'm going to pop this blanket on my mat. The good thing about Yin as well, you don't actually need a yoga mat, but if you do have one, obviously that's better because it just gives you a little bit of extra support and padding. It also delineates where your practice is going to be, which is quite nice. So we're going to bring ourselves onto all fours. And again, here you can do a little bit of cat-cows if you want to, just arching away from the floor and down, just to get that spine moving again if it feels a little bit on the tight side, moving the hips from side to side. So just, use whichever feels right for you. It's quite nice just to take a few moments out between each pose, taking it slowly. And then when you're ready, coming into a nice neutral flat back. So we're going to start off by bringing your right knee in between your hands. And we're going to slide the left leg back. Now there is another option if you've got issues with your knees, which I will show you in a minute. So we should feel this into that right glute. Now if you can't feel it in that right glute, you can just rotate that bottom shin round. The main thing is that your hips stay as level as you can, so if you find you're just tipping onto that right glute, again use another blanket rolled up underneath that bum cheek just to keep you nice and level. And equally you can stay up on your hands if you want to. Again, it just puts a little back bend in there, which is quite nice. Or you can come onto your forearms, which again is quite nice. So if you do have issues with your knees, another option would be to do it on your back. So coming onto your back, bending your left foot, keeping the left foot on the floor, bringing your right foot onto that left knee, and then just drawing the left thigh into the chest. This is pretty much the same feeling because you're still feeling it into that glute. If you can't feel it in the glute, just close up the knees a little bit more, and again just keep them pulled in towards the chest, and this is quite a nice option. Again, if you feel uncomfortable in your knees, I'm going to go back onto my usual pigeon or swan. So again, onto your hands or the forearms. It's also quite nice to bring a little pillow or a cushion underneath your head if you want to. Just breathing into that hip. Breathe to release. Very slowly, just coming back to your hands, just allowing that right knee to come back. And again, if you want to, just rocking a little bit from side to side. If you are on your back doing this as reclined, just drawing both our knees into the chest. Again, does the same thing. Just taking a few moments just to allow things just to release, get the blood supply coming back into those hips. Okay, so whenever you're ready, we're going to go do the second side. So just bringing your right knee through between your hands, just slide your left knee through between your hands, slide your right leg back. So ideally the knees should be facing down towards the floor, just to get the alignment right, and you said your hips should be level. If you are on your back, then you need to bend your right knee and bring your left foot onto your right knee. So going to see if you can feel it into that left glute. If you can't, just rotating that leg underneath you to allow yourself to sink down even more. And again, either staying on your hands or allowing yourself to come forward into that lovely reclined swan. slowly again, just allowing yourself to come onto your hands. And then we're going to bring that left knee back to join your right. So again, just take a few moments just to get that circulation going in those hips. And also your feet as well. You might find you lost a bit of circulation in those toes, which is quite normal, as long as it's not too much. Okay, so we're going to come onto our backs now. So just sliding around. And again, if you want to, you can bring your knees in towards your chest. It's quite nice just to give your lower back a little bit of a massage. And then we're going to bring both our feet down on the floor. So we're going to bring our right foot and place it onto the left as we did a little bit before if you were in that reclined pigeon. And then we're going to leave both our knees to go over to the left. So you'll find that this right foot will be coming closer to the floor. So again, this is a really strong stretch on the IT band, which does get quite tight. So if you can get that right foot on the floor, that's fine. If you can't, again, don't worry too much about it. Now, you can stay here in this lovely twist, which is really, really nice. Or what you can do is just move that left foot slightly closer towards you and just see if you can grab hold of that if you want to increase that stretch in that quad. So again, just get yourself nice and comfortable. And this time you might actually find your right foot can come on the floor. But again, don't overstretch it just because I've suggested it and it doesn't feel right for you. You don't have to do it. We're just going to stay here in this gentle twist for a couple of minutes. As long as your shoulder blades are nice and placed on the floor, that's the main thing. So we're trying to make sure that the top half of the body is nice and straight, and then we've got the twist in the lower back and also into the legs. And then slowly just releasing that foot if you are, grabbing hold of it. Sliding that left foot back down. Then roll back onto our backs. Just bring both those legs or knees back into the chest again. Again, just to really enjoy that lovely couple of moments before we do the second side. So no rushing, just taking your time. Okay, so when you're ready, we'll do the second side. So you'll need to bring your right foot on the floor, bring the left foot onto that thigh, and we're going to allow both the legs to drop out to the right. So again, it might feel different on one side than the other. So you've got a nice stretch on the outside of that left foot, or left leg, should I say. So again, you can just stay here in this lovely gentle twist, or again, if you want to get more of a quad stretch, you can just move that right foot towards your hand and then just get a lovely stretch on the front of that quad as well at the same time. So again, no pain. If you find it pulling in your lower back, you really need to just ease off a little bit. So there shouldn't be any pain. It should be just a little bit of gentle tension. You don't want to hurt yourself. think the thing that runners tend to find a problem is the fact that most runners tend to be very competitive, so it's quite hard to compete with yourself. So we're not trying to force ourselves or compete with ourselves, just allowing our body to sort of get in shape better. So, you know, if you do find it, you're trying to push yourself into these poses, you really need to ease off, because that really isn't what yin is about. It's a very, very passive sort of type of yoga. I mean, a lot of people struggle with the fact it is so gentle, but it is so effective. Just have to trust the process. And then again, just releasing that bottom foot if you're holding on to it, and just allowing those knees to come back into the chest, just taking your time. Again, if you want to bring the knees wide, you can do, or you can just bring them into the chest together. It's up to you. Gently rolling a little bit from side to side. I think most people tend to struggle with yin because it is so different, as I said before, but also a lot of people practice things like Ashtanga yoga or very strong yang type yoga, and you do need a little bit of yin just to calm everything down. So it is sort of like getting that balance right, really. So I think people who are very sort of yang style tend to struggle a little bit with yin because they have to slow down. So they do find the mind racing when they want to go on to the next pose. So it's just slowing everything down and allowing it to happen. So we're going to come into just a gentle shavasana. So just allow those legs just to rest onto the floor. And if you do want to stretch out again, just allow yourself just to iron out those last kicks. The yawn's always quite nice. And then just allow your arms just to come and rest by your side. And just allow the feet to drop out. Maybe just scan your body just to see if there's any remaining tension anywhere, or you feel you're holding tension anywhere. Just notice your feet, just allow those feet to relax and let go. And very slowly, just bring the awareness back into your fingers and toes, slowly, just wiggling them, and maybe again stretching out if that's what you feel you need. Just drawing your knees into the chest one more time, just releasing the spine. And we're going to roll onto one side and gently push ourselves up to seated. Just taking your time, just coming into a nice cross-legged position just for a couple of breaths, just to allow everything to settle. Bringing the hands into your heart centre, just going to lower the head. Just give yourself that little bit of thanks or gratitude for just taking this time out of your day, just to give yourself a little bit of nurturing and nourishment that it needs. And as always, thank you so much for joining me. Feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. There are plenty of videos on there for sports and other things. Got restorative, there's also normal hatha yoga as well for various different ailments and times of day. So I would love to see you again soon. Take care. From Julie from Totally Holistic Health. I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye bye.